Get out if all you're going to do is sleep. You're in the way. Such a useless wife. The one spewing the hurtful words, sadly, was my husband's mother. My mother-in-law. Ever since I was diagnosed with cancer, I've been so tired and often found myself resting. My unhinged mother-in-law seemed to think I was just being lazy. It would constantly berate me. I can't stand her. Just when I felt I couldn't take it anymore, my husband, who was supposed to be on a business trip abroad, walked in with someone. My name is Sophia, a 32-year-old housewife. I've been married to Jackson, whom I met at a different department in the same company for 6 years. We have a 5-year-old daughter named Emma. After giving birth to Emma, I switched to a part-time job in the mornings and always picked her up from kindergarten myself. We'd have dinner together and occasionally go out for fun. I thought our simple, happy life would last forever. But about a year ago, our life took a turn. I found out I was pregnant with our second child. But I felt something off in my breast. After getting it checked, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Worse, it was in an advanced stage known as locally advanced breast cancer. I had lost my mother to the same type of cancer, so I always made sure to get annual checkups. But that year, with work and childcare, I got busy and delayed my hospital visit. Had I gone earlier, maybe the outcome would have been different. I was told that the cancer cells had probably broken through the skin at an early stage. The doctor declared it was stage 4 cancer. I was trembling with fear at the doctor's announcement, unable to stop my tears. I didn't want to believe this was happening. I was faced with the choice of prioritizing treatment or going through with the pregnancy. I'll discuss it with my husband tonight. On the bus ride home, I tried hard to hold back my tears. After putting Emma to bed, Jackson and I talked. I had informed him a bit via WhatsApp, but saying it out loud made it all too real, and we both broke down. I expressed my desire to have the baby, but Jackson said, "This time, let's prioritize your health. I can't bear the thought of losing you." I appreciated Jackson's sentiments, but I couldn't decide right away. However, before I could make a choice, I miscarried. I cried my heart out that day, apologizing to the unborn child. Further tests indicated that I might not be able to conceive again. While my dad and father-in-law were supportive and comforting, my mother-in-law said, "Can't even produce an heir. Truly useless," when we were alone. I was determined to beat cancer and live a happy life with Jackson and Emma. I started with chemotherapy, aiming to shrink the tumor to a size where it could be entirely removed. To focus on my treatment, I had to quit my job. Being hospitalized for chemotherapy was tough, especially on Emma, who was only 4 at the time.
"No, Mom, don't go."
Saying goodbye in front of the hospital, I tried to comfort my crying daughter, but it broke my heart. I felt so guilty making young Emma feel this way. Until Jackson got home, Emma would be taken care of by my mother-in-law after kindergarten, which I really disliked. Because once, after being scolded by my mother-in-law, Emma cried even harder. "Emma, don't be selfish. It's okay if Mommy doesn't get better, right?" She might be right in what she's saying, but I thought there's no need to speak that way to a 4-year-old. I've always had a hard time with my mother-in-law, even disliking her since the beginning of our marriage. She's incredibly harsh, speaks aggressively, and doesn't hesitate to say hurtful things. During family meetings, she would critically assess everyone, asking about my education and family background. When she found out my mother battled breast cancer, she said, "Doesn't that mean Sophia has a high chance of inheriting it? Maybe you shouldn't get married." In the end, she was scolded by Jackson and my father-in-law and kept quiet. But when they weren't around, she never missed a chance to make snide remarks. I always wanted Jackson to marry Olivia. Olivia is a childhood friend of Jackson's and a violinist, a graduate from prestigious music school and apparently a favorite of my mother-in-law. She's currently studying abroad, so I've never met her. Jackson assured me she's just an old friend, but my mother-in-law would always bring up Olivia's name and compare me to her. My mother-in-law has always been controlling, especially with Jackson, her son. But with me hospitalized, Jackson couldn't manage everything alone, so we had to rely on mother-in-law. Their house is about a 30-minute drive from ours. My father-in-law holds a significant position in a big company, so they're quite wealthy. Mother-in-law is a housewife spending her days attending various hobby classes and hosting tea parties with friends. I secretly wondered how someone with such a sharp personality could have friends, but in our current situation, we had no choice but to rely on her. "Thank you, mother-in-law, for taking care of Emma," I said. "Oh, don't be so formal. We're family, though I might have to skip some of my classes. Oh, don't worry about it." I wanted to retort to her daily dose of sarcasm, but held back, forcing a smile. Even though I disliked my mother-in-law, she was the only option we had. She might be harsh, but she did care for Emma, her granddaughter, when she wasn't scolding her. Then my chemotherapy began. I received encouraging messages from my dad, father-in-law, Jackson, and Emma, which gave me the strength to persevere. Of course, there were no messages from mother-in-law. Locally advanced breast cancer is quite challenging. Apart from the pain, the tumor protruding from the skin was hot, emitted a foul odor, and dampened my clothes. Being summer, the smell seemed even more potent. I felt terrible thinking I was causing discomfort to my family, medical staff, and others around me. During my hospital stay, I looked forward to messages and video calls from Jackson and Emma.
Mom, hang in there with the treatment. Emma's being a good girl.
Her sweet voice over the video gave me the strength to endure the painful chemotherapy sessions. Despite the severe nausea and difficulty eating, the treatment finally ended, and the shrunken tumor could be surgically removed. By the end of the summer, I was set to be discharged. The doctor advised, "You'll be under observation from now on. Please come for regular checkups. If any cancer cells remain, we'll collaborate with plastic surgery department for grafting during removal, followed by radiation therapy." I was told it would be challenging to achieve a complete cure, but I was just happy to be going home. Jackson and Emma came to pick me up from the hospital. Seeing Emma after so long, she ran and hugged me, and I hugged her back tightly. "Thank you, Jackson. I'm sorry for leaving Emma with you for so long. I've lost weight, haven't I? Look at my hair," I said, trying to make light of the situation by touching the sparse hair left on my head. Jackson, with tears in his eyes, hugged me and said, "You've been through a lot." A few days later, we went to my in-laws' house for a post-discharge celebration. I deeply thanked my father-in-law and mother-in-law. "Thank you both for everything. I'm sorry for the inconvenience." While father-in-law responded warmly, mother-in-law remained cold and distant. "Let's eat." When I tried to help, she surprisingly said, "You just got out of the hospital. Sit down and rest." Probably because Jackson and father-in-law were there. That night, we stayed over. Jackson had to rush to work, so after putting Emma to bed, I took my painkillers and another medicine to reduce the odor. After changing my bandages and taking a warm shower to ease the pain, I was about to put my used towel in the washing machine when mother-in-law burst in. "What's this awful smell? Don't put your towel in our machine. It'll transfer the odor," she said, pinching her nose dramatically. She then stared at my chest and laughed. "What's with that chest? It looks disgusting." I was taken aback. I seriously thought I was crazy. Ignoring her seemed the best option to avoid wasting energy. I never missed my monthly checkups, but my condition wasn't improving much. Jackson always took time off to accompany me, diligently noting down the doctor's advice. I was filled with gratitude. Despite mother-in-law's comments, I decided to undergo surgery to remove the remaining cancer cells. It wasn't a cure, but it would improve my quality of life. Even if I don't like spending time in a room that smells bad, this time I didn't have to stay in the hospital for as long, so Jackson took some time off. After the surgery, the odor began to diminish gradually. On days when I felt strong enough, I enjoyed taking walks with Emma or baking together. Still, many days were filled with fatigue, making it hard to do household chores. Jackson, without any complaints, took the initiative in doing the housework. Even after a tiring day at work, he cared for Emma, and I couldn't thank him enough. "I'm sorry, Jackson. I put so much on you." You have nothing to apologize for, Sophia. Just rest and get better soon. I've always cherished Jackson's kindness, even before we got married. My mom passed away from cancer shortly after our wedding. She was given only 6 months to live, but managed to stay with us longer. She was overjoyed about our marriage. Though she couldn't attend the wedding, she cried tears of joy seeing my bridal photos. I wish she could have met her granddaughter, Emma. I yearn for a long life with Jackson and Emma. I hope to hold Emma's children in my arms someday. All I could do was focus on my treatments. Then one day, an incident occurred. Jackson informed me he had to go on a week-long business trip. I'm really sorry. Can you stay at my parents' house for just a week? Jackson knew about the challenges of living with mother-in-law, but was unaware of the harsh words she often directed at me. The thought of spending a week with mother-in-law was daunting, especially with young Emma around. But I reluctantly agreed to Jackson's proposal. Father-in-law was very welcoming in front of father-in-law. Mother-in-law wouldn't say, "Don't worry about a thing. Just ask if you need help." But I couldn't forget the hurtful words she'd said during my last visit. A few days after Jackson left for China, after dropping Emma off at kindergarten, I felt extremely lethargic. As I was about to rest, mother-in-law suddenly came in and demanded, "Clean the house, do the laundry, prepare dinner, and tidy up the garden." "Where are you going, mother-in-law?" "Anywhere I want. Just make sure you work while you're alive." She left without waiting for a response. I was too weak to do any chores and decided to rest. Feeling helpless and tired, I lay down on the bed. I seemed to have a fever, and I thought I had come to see my mother-in-law just for something like this, but I couldn't do anything. I felt feverish and texted Jackson about my condition. I must have fallen asleep because I was jolted awake by someone shaking me. "How long will you sleep? Get up!" I woke up to mother-in-law's loud voice and her glaring at me. "If you're just going to sleep, leave. You're such a burden. Why haven't you done what I asked?" Her shrill voice made my headache even worse. "You've been discharged, so work. You neglect Emma and make Jackson do all the housework. I feel sorry for him." Mother-in-law continued to berate me. Even without being told, I feel more guilty than anyone about Jackson and Emma. But my body is just so weak. Even if they say I can be discharged, I can't just get up and move immediately. If I could, I wouldn't be here. "You should have never married someone like him. Poor Emma, having you as a mom." The harsh words kept coming, and with my fever and fatigue, tears started to form. "I'm sorry, please forgive me. I'll do my best with the treatment." All I could do was apologize. "You're not recovering because you lack determination. You rushed into marriage because you wanted to show your mom a happy face, and now you have cancer. A wife who just lies around is nothing but a burden. You can't even have more kids. But don't worry, even without you, I'll make sure Jackson remarries and Emma gets a proper mom." What? What is she talking about? "Olivia is back from abroad, so don't worry about Jackson and Emma. Just divorce him gracefully." Mother-in-law, Jackson has his own life. Don't think you can control everything just because he's your son. Shut up. You won't be around for long anyway. Just leave. How cruel. You really have a way with hurtful words. Just as I managed to retort, someone entered the living room.
"Grandma, I hate you. Why are you so mean to Mom?"
Emma, tears streaming down her face, ran to me and hugged me. "Huh? Emma? I thought she was at kindergarten. I checked the clock and it was already past 3 p.m. Then Jackson, who was supposed to be on an overseas trip, walked in with an unfamiliar woman. Mother-in-law looked shocked. "Jackson, why are you here? And Olivia? I got a call from Sophia this morning saying she wasn't feeling well, so I came back. Then I got a call from kindergarten saying no one picked up Emma. If you have a problem, take it up with Mom." "If you have a problem, take it up with me, Mom. Why are you being so mean to Sophia?" As for the woman called Olivia, "I was asked by you to come over, ma'am. Today was supposed to be Emma's violin lesson." She looked uncomfortable and apologetic. I was glad Jackson was back, but I was so feverish and confused that I passed out again. When I came to, a meeting was being held. At the in-laws' house, Jackson and even father-in-law, who seemed to have left work early, were all gathered to get an explanation. Emma had gone to the park with Olivia, and the detailed explanation and discussion began. "Mom, when I rushed home earlier, Olivia was outside, and inside you were shouting nonsense. What's going on? Explain." Mother-in-law began her story, looking intimidated by Jackson's stern gaze. While I was hospitalized for chemotherapy, She unexpectedly met Olivia, who was supposed to be abroad as a violinist. Olivia had returned after a hand injury ended her violinist career. Now, after surgery, she's a violin teacher. So why was Olivia at her house? When Jackson asked, Mother-in-law said, I thought she could teach Emma the violin. I mistakenly got the dates mixed up. I thought you should have married Olivia. She'd be a good mom for Emma. What? We've been just friends since childhood. It's ridiculous to even suggest that when Sophia is here. But I just want you to be happy. Sophia's diagnosis is terminal. When she's gone, you'll be left to raise Emma alone. Olivia has always liked you. She's adored Emma and would gladly accept her. I thought it would be a good start with lessons. Are you kidding me? What do you think you're doing with our lives? I'm happy with just Sophia and Emma. Why can't you understand that? Don't drag Olivia into your crazy plans. You're out of your mind. Children aren't tools. And where were you? What's this? He held up several funeral home brochures. Mother-in-law tried to explain, but it was clear she had been planning my funeral. The realization that she despised me that much was more terrifying than sad. I can't stand you anymore. You're a terrifying woman. Wait, it's common to plan funerals while still alive. That's for people who are truly at the end. Sophia is fighting hard to live. I heard you said terrible things to her earlier. I've had enough. This is the end of for us. Father-in-law's words left mother-in-law speechless. We were shocked to hear that father-in-law intended a divorce, but he seemed resolute. Later, we got the full story from Olivia. Apparently, mother-in-law had been scheming to marry Olivia to Jackson. According to Olivia, mother-in-law had painted me as a terrible mother who neglected her child. To be honest, after hearing that from Ma'am, I thought maybe I should become Emma's mother, but after spending time with Emma and hearing her talk about Mrs. Sophia, I realized she wasn't the person I'd been told about. I felt Emma's love for Mrs. Sophia. I too had been devastated when I couldn't be a violinist anymore due to my hand condition. Despite your severe illness, you're enduring painful treatments and raising your child without complaint. You're incredibly strong. Hearing Ma'am's cruel words earlier broke my heart. I won't see Ma'am again. Emma's only mother is you, Mrs. Sophia. I wish you all the best. I had been jealous of Olivia thinking she was mother-in-law's ideal daughter-in-law. But she was a dignified and beautiful person who, like me, had faced and overcome illness. After a discussion, we prepared to leave the in-laws' house. We're leaving now. We won't see you again, Mom. Why is that? Why? How could she not understand after everything she'd done? Please, Sophia, convince Jackson you can stay as our daughter-in-law. What? No, thank you. I refuse your permission to stay as your daughter-in-law. Goodbye. We left without looking back. Later, we heard father-in-law and mother-in-law did get divorced. Mother-in-law quickly signed the papers and moved back to her parents' house, but was soon kicked out. We heard from acquaintances that she was confident father-in-law would come back for her, but he never did. Mother-in-law had been spending excessively, mostly on supporting stage actors, and father-in-law had reached his limit. Word spread about mother-in-law's cruel words to me and her attempts to marry Olivia to Jackson. Many distanced themselves from her. She was evicted from her parents' house and now lives in an apartment working part-time. Having never worked and being so proud, this must be humiliating for her, but it's her own doing. I can't forgive her and hope she struggles. Jackson isn't an object just because he's her child. He has his own life, and his happiness isn't for mother-in-law to decide. If she had understood that, none of this would have happened. Mom, look, Emma's grown so much. Years later, we stood at my mother's grave, with Emma, now in elementary school, praying beside us. I was given 6 months to live, but I've survived for 5 years since. My cancer has metastasized to my bones, but I'm not afraid. I'm determined to live with my beloved family. I won't give up on holding my grandchild, a dream my mother couldn't fulfill.